Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? Oh my gosh, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It is morning for me on the West Coast of the United States, 9 a.m., April 15th, 2020. This was supposed to be tax day. Did you know that? If you're in the States, you probably knew that. This was supposed to be our big tax day. Every year it's on the calendar as a supposed pseudo holiday. In the sense that this is a deadline for a lot of personal tax returns. But this year, we got a 3-month reprieve. Thank you, coronavirus. So our taxes are not due, at least for most people, for another few months. So that's exciting, I guess. Anyway, I hope you are doing well. Let me know where you are watching from. I'm excited about today. We're going to attempt something that I was going to say that we haven't done before, but that's true. But also it's going to be a live demonstration of this thing I mentioned yesterday, the Money Tree Book Registry. So excited to share that with you, along with some comments and answering some questions and whatever's on your mind. If we haven't met before, my name is Chris Guillebeau. I'm the author of the new book, The Money Tree. Yes, here it is, The Money Tree. Going to talk about that. And I was supposed to be doing a 40-city book tour, but again, thank you, coronavirus, I am not. And so I decided, starting 8 days ago, to just start showing up here, answering questions, doing a little bit of teaching around a topic, but mostly just kind of, being around for whatever people wanted to talk about. As we go on, I want to highlight different people's projects, those who are starting side hustles. What are you working on? What's your challenge? What do you hope to accomplish? How can we help you? Whether it's me with some advice or the community in general. I'm hoping to highlight lots of different projects and do some website critiques and such as we go along. So yeah, let me know where you're at. We've got folks here from London, Columbia, South Carolina, Philly. 11 a.m. Still cold in Wisconsin. Cleveland. Hey, what's up, Rachel? KS, always here from Bangalore. Thank you. So consistent. LA. Lancaster, and yes, Corrine, you posted earlier, I don't have a copy of the book yet. We met in Cambridge, Mass. Last year. That's great. So you can be our volunteer, and it's a very easy task. You don't actually have to do anything. We just needed to know who you are, and so that will all make sense in a little bit. So this is all about, as I said, showing up, etc. But I've been thinking a lot recently about this concept of finding opportunity in a time of uncertainty. In a time of change and where people are questioning so many different things, a lot of people are worried, anxious, and afraid, and that's understandable. But so much is outside of our control right now. What I'm interested in figuring out is what is within our control. What can we do to better our lives, better the lives of those around us? First of all, just by being safe and such. But then, if we're not a healthcare worker, if we're not on the front lines of saving the world, which I always say, thank you so much to everybody who's doing that. You're amazing. But for those of us who aren't, what is our responsibility? What can we do? How can we, create something to where we look back at the end of all this and we're like, I'm glad that I had that chance to make that thing that I have thought about for a while or been working on for a while but haven't finished or whatever the case may be. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you a question of the day. And by the way, you're welcome to leave any comments or questions in the chat. I will kind of cycle back and forth periodically and to refer to those. And if I miss your comment, it's just because I'm kind of multitasking here. I always go back at the end of the stream and read everybody's comments, and that kind of informs what I do next. So it's a very collaborative process. One part what I bring to it, but also one part what all of you do. So question of the day for today. This day, April 15th, what is one thing you think you need but could really live without? And particularly maybe in this time, have you noticed anything that you always thought was essential, but it turns out, in fact, you don't really need that thing? And this we could actually reverse the question, which maybe we'll do that tomorrow or another day. What's something that you thought you didn't need, but all of a sudden turns out to be essential? When your life is kind of, changed or you're on lockdown, you can't go out, you're not as social as you might like to be. But for now, what's one thing you think you need but could really live without? So post your answer in the chat if you have an answer to that. If not, just think about it. And while you're doing that, just tell you a little bit more about how this works, our agenda. The text we use, I'm teaching and kind of sharing lessons from the Money Tree, rolling that out as we go along because this is essentially a virtual tour. Oh, yes, there it is, the Money Tree, a story about finding the fortune in your own backyard. It's been very fun to see, now that the book is 8 days old, to see lots of people posting photos and sending me emails about their comments and feedback and just how they're interacting with the story. It is a story, by the way, if you're familiar with any of my other work, my nonfiction work. This is a narrative, a story. It's about a character who's experiencing financial pressure and hardship and has to kind of find his way out through a creative process. So it's a lot different from my other stuff, but still about self-reliance, broadly speaking. Nothing is for sale. This isn't part of like leading up to a launch or anything. This is like, I'm talking about the book, of course, but aside from that, there's no like membership site or anything else. It is all about community. And every day we'll have a question of the day, a short lesson, and a challenge for you. So today's question, what was it? It was about, I just said it, it was something that you think you need, or maybe you thought you needed, but it turns out, in fact, that it's really not that essential. Maybe you're noticing it during this time, or maybe it's just something in life that you have observed. I'm curious if anybody has answers to that. Lolo Bell, hey, what's up? A large purse. Doodle reads, I have discovered I can survive without cookies. I have not made that discovery yet myself. So congratulations to you. Oh, Eric says my job. How about that? That's a great answer. I think I need it, but I really need to live without it. Great answer. Fantastic. I often hear from a lot of people that are trying to make that transition, from a job to their full-time side hustle or their whatever their thing is. And it's interesting because, I used to hear from people who were like reading my blog or listening to the podcast in their cubicle at work, or sometimes like furtively, like somebody was like working in a warehouse and he's like, I have to work in a warehouse, and like all day long I listen to Side Hustle School, or other people, like I said, in their cubicle, like reading the blog or whatever. And now like so many people are at home, so they don't have to do it furtively, so it's interesting to see the transitions that people are making and the goals that people have. Debbie says a gym. Yeah, I kind of miss my gym actually. Like I'm a runner, so I'm still doing that, but I kind of miss being able to go to the gym. But I guess technically I can live without it. Cindy said, my crock pot and pressure cooker. I have always lived without a crock pot and pressure cooker, but I commend you for now learning that you can also live without one. Television, brand name bathroom tissue. There you go. Nespresso machine. Sean also mentioned the gym, the TV, books better than Netflix. Water filters, light in the bathroom, candles are much more relaxing. Yeah, great answers. Great answers, everybody. That's really interesting. I think my favorite answer, I'm gonna have to say that Eric Blair wins the comment award there. What's something you think you need? He said, my job. I think I need it, but I really need to live without it. Well said. Well said. Okay, so share a couple of things with you here. And then we're going to do this live demonstration as well as any conversation, chat, etc. that anybody would like to talk about. Let's see, I actually need to go back a little bit. It would help, Chris, if you started your slides in the right order. As I said, this is always live, everything is live and in person, for better or worse. So yesterday I talked about the third way. And the third way is very much featured in the Money Tree. The main character, Jake, the one who's experiencing that financial pressure, he ends up going to this group called The Third Way that meets every week. And everybody in the group is trying to, do what Eric is doing, or what some of you might be doing, or maybe not necessarily trying to quit their job, but they're trying to establish a new way of life, a new source of income for themselves. And they want to do so in a different way than the normal way, or a different way than the old way, let's say. And so the group is called The Third Way, but what is the first way and the second way? Well, yesterday I mentioned, the first way of starting a business is by opening a, retail shop of some kind. And in that case, you have to borrow money, whether it's from the bank or from your credit card or your parents or from your own savings if you have savings. It definitely requires capital. It also involves risk and a long time frame. You're going to open that retail store, you might not know for a year or 2 years or longer, if it's going to work out. Then you got the second way of the startup world, which everyone is familiar with from various TV shows and popular culture in general. Startup world also requires capital. It also requires, or it involves risk. And, often in the startup world, to obtain that capital, since you're often trying to raise like a lot of money, you need to have the right connections, which is just another asset, essentially. Like if you are connected, that's great. But if you're not, then you are essentially poor. Like that is the startup equivalent of being poor, is not having the right connections or not knowing the right people. So nothing against those approaches, like for people who are absolutely committed to that. There are certain businesses that do work well in the startup world. I like to support local small businesses, including local coffee shops and so on. But the third way is quite different, because both of these approaches are dependent on other people. And if they're dependent on other people, then they're dependent on something outside your control, right? Which is kind of how I started earlier. We want to find what is within our control. What can we do? And the answer to that is, the third way. What is the different approach than both of these approaches that people often talk about when starting a business? And I gave you the 3 characteristics of a third way project, which you can also think of as just a micro entrepreneurial project or a side hustle or a lifestyle business, whatever you like to call it. The point is to start quickly without spending money and by using your existing skills and knowledge. And so if we think about each of those things kind of in contrast to other models, starting quickly, I don't want to take a long time frame. I want to find out in a short period of time if there is something to this idea or not. And, there may not be, like not every idea is going to work. Not every project is going to succeed right out of the gate. But wouldn't you rather have that information sooner rather than later? And also, by starting quickly, what I've seen over and over in lots of profiles on Side Hustle School, often by starting, that person gets to the next thing quicker, or they start something and they realize, oh, there's not quite a need for what I thought, but now I'm hearing from people that they want something different, or this experience has shown me that there's a different approach that I need to take. And so that's why it's so valuable to just kind of get things out there quickly. And the benefit of starting without a lot of money is, should be self-explanatory. But yet it's something that I think a lot of people really struggle with, because I continue to get questions all the time about like how much money is needed to do this. And if I have X dollars, what kind of project can I start? Is this enough? If I have, $2,000, is it enough? If I have $500, is it enough? And, a decade ago, I wrote the book, The $100 Startup, which is all about profiling people who have, started with a relatively small amount of money, well, a very small amount of money, let's say. In some cases, it was less than $100. Some cases, it was a bit more. But even since then, like to this day, I continue to get emails all the time from people that are like, I have a $35 startup. I had a $15 startup, or whatever. So the question then is, and by the way, as I said, welcome if you're just joining in. My name is Chris Guillebeau, and you can leave a comment or a question in the chat. I will come back to that in just a moment. Let's see here. So the question, though, people have sometimes, especially if they're coming from that mindset of, that second way, the startup world, they've watched Shark Tank, and, often in those conversations where people are pitching their business, one of the sharks or some other expert, will ask this question, and they'll say, well, that's great what you're doing, but, does it scale? How does it scale? And by asking that question, they're trying to point to a weakness, essentially, a weakness as they see it. And in their minds, it is a weakness because they're thinking about investing their money. And the whole point of getting that kind of investment is to scale or to rapidly grow, or to say, okay, this idea is working a little bit, but if they had $100,000, it could work so much more. Now, as I said, there are projects that model is well suited to, but my point, and what I have tried to relentlessly, put forward in lots of different ways for a decade now, originally based on my own experience, but ultimately based on thousands and tens of thousands of other people, is that not everything has to scale. Not everything has to scale. Not everything has to fit that model. Talked a few days ago about the woman who started this business you can see on Instagram, Clearly Cookies, making custom cookies, and she ended up following this trend of making fidget spinner cookies. So cookies in the shape of a fidget spinner. And, this was just a small little thing she did, but as a result, she made $2,000 extra a month, for 3 to 6 months. So, obviously that's not something that scales. A lot of other projects that I've talked about in just a short period of time, a few days here, They don't necessarily scale. I talked about drone pilots or drone photographers, this new industry of people who have learned to fly drones and take photos of houses for sale, typically in real estate. And a couple people doing that are doing extremely well. They're making like $100,000 a year from this project. Does it have to go national? Does it have to franchise? Do they have to start getting employees? That's one approach, but they very well may choose not to. And, just yesterday we crossed the 1,200 stories, 1,200 consecutive days of Side Hustle School, which, by the way, if you were curious, 1,200 days ago was January 1, 2017. It's kind of funny. I always remember where that date is based on how many episodes I've done. So we've done 1,200 stories. And I mean, we have had some that have, gone on to take investment and now they have 100 employees or something, but those are the tiny minority. The vast majority are lifestyle entrepreneurs. They're people like you and me, perhaps, who just found a way to use existing skills, existing knowledge, and adapt them to this new economy, particularly now in this new economy that we're in, because a lot of things have changed, like I mentioned, and they haven't spent a lot of money. They've started quickly, and this business is about their life. It's about supporting their goals, their dreams, what they want to do to have more options, quit the job, like our commenter said, or otherwise just build security so that the next time something like this happens, I mean, God forbid, hopefully there's not going to be another pandemic like this for another 100 years. But the point is, events happen that are outside our control. And one of the things that we can do is to create financial security for ourselves so that we are less panicked, less impacted, when something like this occurs. So this might not scale, this thing might not scale, but does it have to? Right? Not everything has to scale. That is that message I've relentlessly putting forward for a long time. Let's see if anybody has comments or questions before we go on. And we're going to do this live demo in a moment, which I'm excited about, which may not work, but this is how life works when you do something live. So let's see. Neil Dunwoody said, working out from home, but missed my gym. Yep, same. Laura's reading said, so this is going back to the question, if you're just joining in, we asked a question earlier, what is something that you thought you couldn't live without, but you're kind of realizing that you actually can? Kate said, hard copy books and excessive paper notebooks, transitioning to an e-reader. I just bought the Money Tree for my Nook. I'm creating an online workbook to go with it. That's fun. That is cool. Let me know how that online workbook works out, how the workbook works out. I also read with Kindle, and I read both, like a lot of print books and also with Kindle, so I like them both myself. High Level Tennis said, I saw one on Shark Tank where a guy draws cartoon pictures. Very easy start. Mark Cuban took it to scale as well. A little bit of a rare case though. Yep, fair point. I think Laura, I don't know if I mentioned this, Laura can live without clothes. Time to get a drone. That's awesome. That's awesome. Going into the office, 24/7 access to a grocery store. Light in the bathroom, mentioned that earlier. Okay. Okay, awesome. So we'll talk a bit about that more as we go along, not just today, but on into tomorrow. I'm going to start giving you some more examples, pulling out different examples from the podcast, from my books, and some examples that I haven't shared before. Just been hearing from lots of people during this time who are starting little creative businesses, which is so fun. And let me know what you're doing too so we can feature it. But I would now love, before we wrap up for the day, now love to attempt a real-time demo. So I mentioned something the other day. I mentioned that we are creating something called a Money Tree Book Registry. I mentioned it yesterday, and that yesterday was the first time I talked about it. So for everybody who's showing up live, I really appreciate you doing that. I'm trying to involve you, and I'm learning through this process as well, as you can tell. By the way, I forgot to say this earlier. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. That would be so awesome. Just right below. It's actually below. I'm like pointing to it over here, but it's actually down there. That would be so cool. And you can also subscribe, hit the bell to get notifications if you would like. So let us see here. See if this works. All right. Cool. Cool. So let me know if you can see this on the screen. This was surprisingly difficult to get set up. I'm obviously learning a lot about technology as I go, which is interesting. So So this is the website, moneytreebook.com. And we've just redirected the homepage from what it used to be to this. And my vision for this project is, I really want this book to get out to as many people as possible, especially in a time, as I said, when people are feeling anxious and afraid, and especially when people are struggling financially. And so working with Nikki Hajal, who I believe is on the stream and has been watching every day. Thank you, Nikki. Nikki and I have built this site. Well, mostly Nikki has built the site, but I'm involved a little bit with the idea of creating a process to connect book donors with people in financial need. So the idea is, if I scroll down a little bit, you can read more about the story here on this site. And here actually, this is a good little box. Be part of the Money Tree Book Registry. It's simple. You can give a book. Or you can ask to receive one. Can you purchase at least one book for someone in need? You can do it now, which is I'm going to do right now in just a moment. Make sure I have everything I need for that. Or if you're out of work, underemployed, otherwise facing pressure, then you can add your name to the registry. Our goal is that over time, everyone can see who's getting books, help us count down toward the goal. I would love to do, 10,000 books or maybe 25,000, whatever it could be. By the way, Nikki, when I showed this to Jonathan Fields, our mutual friend, the other day, he was like, "This box is really good. Why isn't this box at the top? It actually explains a lot more." And I was like, "Okay, good idea. Maybe we will regroup on that." Okay, so I want to show you all, and we'll see if this works because it's just getting started. I'm going to do donate to the registry. So when you click here, you can choose, how many books would you like to contribute? I'm going to do this in real time here. So let's say I'm going to contribute 3 books. I am also buying a lot of copies of my own book for this process. I'm trying to be invested in it as well. And then all of my royalties that go through the book registry are also going to be donated in addition. So here on the second screen, you can complete your purchase. You add some information, including your credit card. So go ahead and put your credit card number in the live chat there, and then I can use it to buy books for everybody. Just kidding, don't do that. But I am going to switch back to this. Put my name in, my information. Hopefully you can't see this. If you can, I guess it will be books for everybody. Who knows, Let's see here. Give me 1 second. There's probably some software where people can tell, which keys are being typed based on the sound or something. But the funny thing about credit cards, I don't actually worry too much about my credit card being stolen anymore because now it's so easy. If there's ever any fraudulent charge, you just call them and they take it off. So I don't really worry too much. 7, 9. Okay. So hopefully you haven't seen all that, but if you have, it's okay. Life goes on. Let us now go back. Moment of truth. Okay. Moment of truth. So I did complete my purchase. I have successfully charged myself. This is not a test purchase, by the way. I'm an actual purchase that I have made. And so here on the next screen, you can do one of 2 things. So in this case, I bought 3 books. For each book, you can choose to send that book to somebody that you know. If you know somebody that needs a book, you can just buy it for them here. Or you can contribute the books to the registry, and that goes to the database of all the people that we are collecting. So in this case, I promised earlier that I would send a book to Corrine. Now, I don't have Corrine's address. I'm not going to ask her to post that address in the chat either. But Corrine, let's touch base after. You can send me your address, and I will do that separately. But for now, let's say I'm going to contribute all 3 books to the registry, which I have done. The message tells me that I am awesome. Thank you. I am awesome. And then that's it. And then pretty soon later, this should show up. There's a little bit of a delay, but I should be able to see my name here. Actually, my name is here already, but that was a test that I did 45 minutes ago. We've got some other big donors here, including Mo Safari Test and Paytest. Paytest has actually purchased, multiple times recently. CC, which I think might be credit card. And then Nikki Hajal is not only building the site, he's buying copies himself. So the point is we are still in beta with this, but I wanted to show it to you. Also, just briefly, before I close it out, the process to request a free copy is also pretty simple. You just go here, you read a few different things, you agree that you meet one of these conditions, you go on, you give us your information, and then we do our best to find a book donor. And like I said, this is grand social experiment. I'm not entirely sure what will, happen with it, but my hope is to, try to get this resource to as many people as possible. Not just because I want them to read my book, but because I hope they will do something about it. Like if you listen to the podcast, at the end of most episodes, or at least most of the episodes where I'm doing a case study, I always say, inspiration is good, but inspiration with action is better. And it's my hope, as an author, the thing that I love to hear from people is like, not just like I read your book and I liked it, but I read your book and then I, took action on it. It helped me move forward with an idea I had, or it gave me an idea, or it gave me the confidence to see that, it wasn't just, people like Elon Musk who could start businesses. There was something that I could do as well. And it wasn't about taking a big risk. It was more just about understanding that I already knew something that could apply in a different way. So my hope is always that people will be able to do that. So that's a little bit of the book registry. Nikki says, Chris is going to bankroll my TP stash. There you go. Awesome. So let me know if you have any comments or questions. I just wanted to share that with you. This is a community. If you are enjoying this series, if you've enjoyed some of my other work, it would be awesome if you have the ability to purchase at least one book for somebody else through the book registry. I'd be grateful for that. Like I said, I'm doing the same thing. We really want to help as many people as possible. But if you're not able to do that, I totally understand. You can still help by spreading the word about it. You can still share this. It's moneytreebook.com. on your social with anybody you know. Or as I said, if you know people who are in financial need, we want to hear about them as well. So you can just kind of send them there. For now, this is US only. Anyone can be a donor from anywhere in the world, but in terms of the books that we are shipping, it's US only just because of logistics and shipping concerns. But if it works well, then hopefully we can expand elsewhere. And if you're buying international for somebody, then of course you could buy that through whatever system or process that you normally go through. All right. Any other questions or comments? Effie says, yes, for taking action. I hope you are taking action. What are you working on? Let me know what your project is. Let me know what your number one thing is for today. What's the number one goal you hope to accomplish before the day is over? I will think about that and share mine with you as well before we sign off. David is donating a few copies now. Thank you so much, David. You're awesome. David's also watching every day, just like some of you. I appreciate it. David's in New Jersey at the moment. $17 is $3 less than Amazon is charging. That is correct. You know what? I'm actually subsidizing this a little bit. I didn't mention that. I think that my actual cost is a little bit more, but I wanted to make it accessible. So I might raise the price a little bit at some point, but for now it is $17. That's correct. Are they hard? These are hard copies. So we are actually mailing physical print books to people with this. I actually want them to have, the actual physical book, even though I like ebooks too, but for this, I wanted to do that. Oh my goodness. My biggest thing today, I'm so glad that worked. Thank you for watching. My biggest thing for today is I'm going to keep working on this. Nikki and I have some more collaboration to do. I have a couple of podcasts I'm recording, and I have 2 interviews that I'm doing. Oh, I meant to mention something earlier about an interview. I talked with The Minimalist recently. I don't know if you know those guys. I talked with them like a week or so ago, and our interview just went up yesterday. And during that interview, they asked me, like, what do you think is the number one, money myth, or what is the truth about money that you think is lesser known, or something like that? I forget how it was phrased. But I said, earning money is more important than saving money. And some people, I can tell from like the comments elsewhere, don't quite understand what I meant by that. And they're like, but saving is more important. I'm like, no, earning money is more important. If you're poor, or if you're struggling, or if you're just trying to get ahead or to have savings or whatever the issue is, then saving more isn't going to help you. You have to make more money, which is what my whole focus is with Side Hustle School and Money Tree. It's good to be frugal, it's good to be responsible, et cetera. But if you have a lot of debt, for example, it's not going to help you to like spend $4 less, a day on your coffee or whatever. Much better and more effective in the long term to figure out how to make more than, an extra $4 a day to pay for that coffee. So that is just something that I thought about. David's going to write 2 more pages of his book. That's awesome. Lolo says, I honestly feel like I don't have any marketable skills. We should talk about that. You're going to join us again tomorrow, Lolo, because maybe we can talk that out a little bit. I don't feel like I don't have marketable skills. I really believe, and I've experienced that usually in a short conversation with people, you can actually identify some of those marketable skills. But so I think the problem there is not one of lack of skills. It's a problem of self-confidence, or maybe just lack of insight into what you are good at. But it doesn't mean you aren't good at something that you don't have a marketable skill. So we can talk about that a bit more. Experience addict taking virtual assistant classes to create my own biz, and already applying today to remote virtual assistant opportunities. Wish me luck. Good luck. Let me know what happens. Rachel is posting to her neighborhood's Facebook group to try to increase her sales with my banana bread bakes. That's awesome. Eric is recording more videos for Udemy and Skillshare courses. And Effie is still brainstorming on my skills from yesterday's discussion. Today I will continue with updating my resume updates. Okay, that's awesome. That is awesome. Well, I'm so glad to be able to do this for you every day. Share a little bit as we wrap up what it's about. I mentioned earlier, but this is kind of like the little bookend. With uncertainty comes opportunity. Nobody will care as much as you do. That's why you have to invest in yourself. I know that most of you out there are trying to do that in different ways. And then also, this will make more sense when you read the book, but you can do more than you think. So whether it's Lolo or somebody else who's like, I don't know, what I could do, I really believe that there is something. And so maybe together we can work on kind of unpacking that or unlocking it. So hopefully we will do that. Thank you for joining me today. You're all awesome. Feel free to share the channel, share the book registry. If you're able to do that, just pass it on. If you can buy a book for somebody, that's awesome. If not, just tell people about it so we can get the word out. And I will be back again tomorrow. So have a wonderful day, everybody, wherever you are in the world.